So we finally settled a lawsuit from an acquisition gone wrong. And here's what we learned and how it can help you. So we acquired a trucking company for $4 million, but it turns out a lot of the financial information that was provided to us was false. We did the full diligence, but even Q of E's don't catch outright fraud. So post-acquisition, we had access to more info, their emails, invoice systems. We were able to find about $250,000 of expenses that were unreported. So our team estimated the total damages between unreported expenses and overreported revenue. The damages were about 2.1 million. We had a forensics accounting firm, with the extra access that we now had, do an analysis of our findings. They came out to the same number. So the third party verified our findings. So now the problem here is, in my opinion, these sellers are absolute dirtbags, and this should have been red flag number one. They weren't very nice to the bankers. They were very rude to service providers, and that should have been a red flag. And I know it's kind of a weird reason to back out of a deal, but one of our big lessons learned is that if someone is rude to service providers, yells at people during the acquisition process, you don't want to buy a business from them. And that might sound like a silly reason to back out, is because someone was rude during the process, but there's probably other things going on, and you should just take that as a sign of the problem. Throughout the lawsuit, they took every effort to make our life as miserable as possible, asking for every single piece of information they could, asking for it in different formats after it had been applied, issuing subpoenas to all the board members, sending police officers to all the board members' houses to deliver those subpoenas, trying to make life as miserable as possible. But what they never did was argue any of the points in the lawsuit at any time or provide anything to support their argument. It was just a pure, we're going to make this lawsuit as difficult as possible. Fortunately for us, we had our team, the owner actions team, actually took on most of the burden. Our head of financial management, Ariane, and our M&A analyst, Norvin, really took the brunt of preparing the information and getting that out for the lawsuit so our partners could continue to run the company. Actually, the company started performing pretty well during this time. So we were prepared to take as much pain as they had to offer, but that was their tactic. Now, the lawsuit eventually found itself in mediation. Now, it's important to note there's mediation and arbitration in the legal process. Arbitration is a binding hearing versus mediation is a non-binding, just an attempt to work things out. So this went to court-ordered mediation. And really, the other side, their entire argument was just, we're just never going to pay you. We're going to drag this on forever through appeals, and we're not going to pay, so you might as well settle, which in some instances, they're right. They were just going to drag this on and make it as miserable as possible. It's kind of frustrating that at no point through this at all did they ever try to defend their points or say that they didn't do what we accused them of doing. So I felt extremely optimistic that we were going to win and prevail in trial, but that doesn't mean we're going to see the money. So ultimately, we did settle for an amount less than what was asked, but still, a pretty good amount that's going to put the company back in better footing. And that combines with the growth that we're already seeing. I think the company is going to actually do pretty well going forward, especially with this influx of cash that we can use strategically to grow revenue and get the company back to where it should have been. Now, this case, it's why diligence is important, but there's really nothing you can do about outright fraud. There's been big stories in the news recently about JP Morgan being defrauded by Tricolor, and even BlackRock just had a $500 million fraud against them. Even these big companies that are known for having amazing due diligence, things still happen to them when someone's willing to commit outright fraud. And just know that the court system is not really there to protect you. No one's going to criminally charge the seller. They are going to get away with it. You're just going to try to get back as much as you can. And that's why in our partner program, we have access to an insurance policy that now, rather than having to go and sell the seller, we make an insurance claim. And we think that's a much better process than having to go through the court systems and you're suing someone who's unlikely to actually make payment, even if they lose. So in our partner program, we can't guarantee everything's going to be perfect. The one guarantee we can make is that we'll be with you every step of the way.